So Asians have kind of stayed out of the whole woke shit that has been going on in the country because they've been doing so well. You know, they kind of graduate high school at the highest rates. They go to college at the highest rates. They make the most money, even more so than white Americans. And really, there was nothing for Asian Americans to really bitch about. But ever since we have been hearing from the media that there is this increase in violence against Asian Americans that must be hatred, celebrities, because celebrities don't ever let a good tragedy go to waste. They have taken up the mantle to educate us, the public, on the ignorance of Asian hate. And so on Twitter, you guys know I stay in these Twitter streets. Saweetie, there was an article from TMZ about Saweetie, the self-proclaimed rapper, who she will be performing with Janae Aiko on Friday for the AAPI Heritage Month Special, hosted by Ken Jeong and featuring other Asians. And so apparently all of these celebrities are going to come out and educate us on why we should not hate Asian people. Now, here's why this is important for me to talk about. The reason why they're getting someone like Saweetie to come and talk is because, see, the media is kind of dancing around the issue here because they don't want to really speak about what's happening because it kind of doesn't fit into their woke narrative. And so the narrative in this country has historically been people of color face discrimination and oppression. And they face discrimination and oppression at the hands of Caucasian males, right? And that has been the narrative up until the recent Asian stuff, because most of the Asian videos that you see of Asians getting, punched in the face or jumped or robbed, they are getting beat up by African Americans, black people, black men, black males to be more specific. That's the dirty little secret here. And so the media can't really say that because they don't want to put two minority groups against each other. So what they're trying to do is be pro-Asian, invite kind of these Blasians into the mix to hopefully speak to African Americans without speaking to us in a way that we could ever take offense that they are assuming that we need to be educated not to hate Asian people. That's what's really going on here. Okay? So let me tell you why I think this is all misguided to me. Now, here's the thing. Is there a rise in Asians getting their ass kicked? Yes, there is. There is a rise in Asian Americans getting their asses handed to them. Now, is it true that most of these crimes are being committed by African Americans? Yes, it is true. Most of the crime committed against Asian Americans are committed by African Americans. In fact, I think Asian Americans are the only demographic that don't kill themselves like the rest of us, right? That came out funny, but you know what I mean, right? So you know how African Americans kill mainly African Americans, white Americans kill mainly white Americans, or commit crimes against their own kind. I think Asian Americans are the only demographic in which that's in our group is responsible for more violent crimes against them and not they themselves, which is kind of fascinating. And so people have taken that to say, wow, black people are anti-Asian. But the thing is, I don't know any black person that is actually anti-Asian. I don't. I can't find them. Now, I know a shit ton of black people that are anti-white though. Like, don't like white people, think white people are subhuman or anti-human or like, aliens. Just super racist things that if they said about any other group, you'd be like, wow, that is kind of racist, dude. I hear that about white people all the time. I have yet to hear somebody who is black say anything near as racist about Asian Americans. I don't hear it. I don't see it. I don't know it. And in fact, black people don't really even talk about Asian Americans like that. Our relationship with Asian Americans is strictly transactional. Asian Americans come into black neighborhoods and they build Chinese spots. They build nail salons, and they sell weave in beauty stores in black neighborhoods, and they run laundromats and cleaners. That is kind of our relationship with Asian people. It is strictly transactional. We're not hanging out with these people, right? Like if you go to a poor black neighborhood, you ain't gonna see a black person and an Asian person just hanging out. That ain't our relationship. They are there to give us business and take our money, and that's it. And we are there to get Chinese food and get our nails done and get our beauty supplies and get our clothes washed. That's all. That is the extent to our relationship. We don't hang out with each other like that. There is no black Asian coalition. They are trying to make it a thing. It is not a thing. We do not like these people, but we don't hate them. They're just people to us. Same, vice versa, probably, right? And so then I have to get to, okay, so what can possibly explain, this black versus Asian crime? And here's my theory on this. I just kind of laid out the fact that Asian Americans do work in our communities at a disproportionate number. And so violent crime in black neighborhoods is kind of going up across the board. The mainstream media doesn't care about crime unless, it's crime committed by, a white person towards a black person or a crime committed by a police officer. And so they're not going to report to you the fact that crime is skyrocketing in Chicago, in New York City, in St. Louis, in Oakland, and a lot of these heavily black populated cities. Crime is going through the roof, right? And so there are more black homicides taking place now than there were this time last year or 2 years ago. Asian Americans live and operate disproportionately in our neighborhoods. And so if there is a rise in violent crime, community violence, that is affecting everybody who lives in that community, of course, you would see an uptick in crime committed against Asian Americans who do business and walk around our neighborhoods. And so this is not excusing the violence. This is simply me saying that it doesn't mean that black people hate Asians. And I haven't heard that point brought up by anybody. No one's bringing up, hey, maybe this is just because Asian people live and do business in black neighborhoods and crime is skyrocketing in black neighborhoods across the board. No, they're running with this anti-Asian narrative as if there's a group of black people who hate Asians. And once again, I don't know these people, even though I know the anti-white blacks. I know the anti-Hispanic blacks. If we're keeping it real, I do not know the anti-Asian blacks. And sure, you're probably able to find a handful of black people who say some racist shit towards Asians, but you know what I mean. I don't get a read that in the African American community there is an anti-Asian, sentiment among us. Hell, I know more anti-Semites who are black than I do people who hate Asians. So to me, this is a non-issue. It's a non-issue. They're making this an issue, and you should be concerned if you're listening to this if you're black, because you know what this leads to. More police in the neighborhood, changing laws to make quote unquote Asian hate crimes, you get more time. You see what I'm saying? And so because we're not taking a step back to kind of really think this through and think to ourselves, okay, well, let's sit back, let's really analyze what's going on here, get a full picture before we begin to paint this narrative or preach a narrative. Nah, they can't do it. We're going to assume that this is being driven by anti-Asian sentiment, and let's pass these laws and lock up more black people than we need to because we're protecting the Asian person. And so that's why I care. And that's why you should care too. So I think all of this is BS bullshit. I'm not buying it. And so they can continue to do this thing and push this narrative and pretend like, anti-Asian sentiment amongst African Americans is a normal thing. I'm telling you, it is not. It is absolutely. We don't think about Asians. We don't. So, Saweetie, I mean, she's cute though. She's a cute girl. So, I can't really wish her harm. I think she's stupid for doing this, but she doesn't. She's cute. So, I forgive you, Saweetie, for signing up for this because you haven't thought through the political implications that this is going to have on African Americans. But you fine though. You fine.